Hello everyone. So it is the last live stream of the year. And with that happening, I figured maybe we'll do something interactive rather than me just talking to a bunch of you in front of my desk, because I know some of you don't really enjoy that. I'm going to try not to shake this table too much because it'll shake the camera and that's kind of annoying. But what I want to do first before I even get started is I'm going to go feed my fish some nori so you can watch that. Hi everyone. So I've got some nori here from Omega 1 that came in one of those fish boxes of the month, and I've been using it a little bit. I don't feed a lot of nori to my tank, and I'm trying to change that. See, as you can tell, the fish are ready. They know. And I know you're not going to get great visuals because webcams don't like reef tanks. I should have brought a towel. Well, I've got one here. One of the things I like to do is I like to take my nori, roll it up, fold it in half, and then put it inside the clip and pinch down tight, and then I'll put it in the tank. Alrighty, so we're going to let them start off with that. Let me know if the sound is a problem. Oh, I'm sorry to see that. One person just said they lost all their fish from velvet last month. I'm so sorry to see that. All right. No camera likes reef tanks, you're right. Okay, so what we're going to do today, it's kind of a live stream, end of the year, and I thought we'll just make this interesting. So we'll do something that maybe you haven't seen done on a live stream before. So what I've got here is a gallon of muriatic acid. Well, not a gallon, it's less than a gallon. I've got an adorable little bucket here. This was actually salinity. That's why I asked for the bucket, just because I liked the look. And it is now currently half full with water. I'm going to add more acid to make it 50-50. This is cold water. And the reason I chose cold water is because if you add acid to hot water, what is the likelihood of inhaling fumes as the steam rises? So I like to use cold water when I mix it with acid. And you're thinking, why on earth is he mixing acid and water for YouTube? I'm going to pour it in. You can use gloves if you feel like that's important. You can use eye protection if you feel that's important. You can do this outside to not breathe this stuff, but I'm doing the live stream inside, so we're just going to deal today. And the reason I'm doing this is those nozzles right there, I'm going to soak them, because I'm going to replace them, like I told you guys last week, with these new 3D printed ones, these flow accelerators. So I thought, and I could have just done it off camera and just done it, but I thought, we'll just do it because I'll show you the process. It's not really that hard. Since I'm going to be doing some of this on camera, off camera, I kind of will move the camera around, but I think this will work. And if it doesn't, it'll just be an epic mess. That's why I said in the description, this might get messy. So first thing I'll do is I'll turn off my return pump and grab my step ladder. All right, I just turned that off. Now my return assembly is connected with 1.5-inch PVC. And there is a big union at this end to where I can unscrew it, which I haven't unscrewed in years, so this may be fun. Oh, no, came apart very easily. Good. That's why I always put silicone grease on these threads. Alrighty. Drain out whatever water I can out of here before I carry it over to the table, because it's just going to make a big mess. Hoping to limit how much mess I make here. I see some water in my check valve too. think before I bring it to the sink, I'm going to try and remove those lock lines first. All right. I'm just shaking out all the water so I don't make a mess over my workstation. Okay, so now I've got my assembly, which is a straight line, water going in, and then it comes out these two lower arms. And in the middle is my reverse check valve, which has been in place for a long time, so I'm going to unscrew that as well, and that's going to make some water drain out. Now, what I want to do is I want to submerge one leg and wait about 5 minutes, and then I'll submerge the other leg and wait about 5 minutes, and that way they'll be clean. So in 10 minutes, in theory, the part that sits in the water should be nice and clean. So, I should have put a towel down. Anyway, here's our acid. I'm going to change this angle slightly, I hope. Oh, well, haha. Silly me. All this time I've been looking at the wrong camera. Let's see if I can get this to switch. Okay, here we go. So here's our acid, here's our water. We just pour it in slowly so it doesn't chug. And like I said, I'm pretty much aiming for a 50-50 solution. Alrighty. Don't breathe this. And I'm going to grab a few extra towels before I start this. Alrighty, got some towels. Don't need to stir it or anything special. We'll just take our item and we'll submerge it into the acid. And can you see that that's bubbling? Is that visible to you guys? That is how you know the acid is working, and it's dissolving the calcium. Let's see if I can rig this to stay in place and not fall over, if I'm lucky. I always need to put something somehow, somewhere. What do I got? Is this tall enough? Ha! Success. All right. So that is going to sit for about 5 minutes. Switch you back to this. Trying to work with wet fingers. I'm wearing glasses. That is my safety goggles. If I wasn't wearing glasses, then I would say wear safety goggles. As you can see, it's not explosive. There's nothing crazy that's going to happen. I am soaking the item, and then when I'm ready to clean it, I'm going to lift it out of here and put it into a bucket of rinse water, which I'm looking at it now. I need more water in here. It's not enough. So. The water that I'm going to clean the plumbing in is going to be warm water. You don't have to work in cold water during the rinse because you've taken it out of the acid and you've put it into rinse water, and you can scrub with a sponge, plastic cards like credit cards, a brush, whatever you want to really get the PVC nice and clean again. Yeah, this has to rise about 6 more inches so I can get that piece of plumbing into the bucket. I had the cute bucket. I didn't think about the big rinse bucket. I forgot I had to get that in there. Let's see what kind of questions you have while we're waiting. Yes, muriatic acid, the reason I like it is it's quicker. So muriatic acid is basically vinegar on steroids. So the more potent it is, the quicker it works. But the downside is you have to figure out a way to get rid of it. And you have to be careful not to get it on you or ruin your brand new sweater that you got from your mom for Christmas. This looks pretty good. Just going to set that down here for the moment. And one of the methods of letting the acid, making the acid neutral is to add baking soda. So you could add baking soda to this and wipe out the high pH, and then you could pour it anywhere. Typically, I'm not really worried about breaking it down, but you can. and all you have to do is find a spot where you can dump it. And you could dump it down a toilet. It can be dumped outside somewhere safe. I love to pour it on poison ivy because I feel like that's revenge. And I just don't pour directly on concrete, or if you do, rinse it immediately, because they actually use acid to clean concrete. So if you have a big patio and you pour some on the concrete patio, you may end up with one spot that's really, really white and all the rest doesn't look the same. So garden hose the patio down big time so there's lots of water, pour your acid, rinse, 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 and it should erase whatever problems you may have encountered. Alrighty. Yeah, Dwayne is saying that sometimes he uses it 100%, instead of diluting it. I figured in this case, I'm not dealing with something really encrusted. It's more like algae. And in a way, I feel a little guilty because my tangs are constantly trying to clean off this part of the plumbing. They're nibbling at it every day. It's their food source. So for me to take it away from them, I feel a little bit bad. But at the same time, if I'm going to install brand new outlets, I didn't want to screw in brand new outlets into something crusty and nasty. I want to clean it all up. This time of year, it's kind of harder to work with muriatic acid because it's so cold outside. Like right now, it is 39 degrees here, and it's uncomfortable. So this is almost done bubbling. That means it's almost done. That's the other thing about muriatic acid. You can just look and see the status of what's going on, and if it is barely bubbling, it's clean. It's ready to go. I'll switch cameras again. And I can even move this camera here. So can I give you a close-up? So here is our acid. There you can see the plumbing. It's barely bubbling, just a little tiny bit. It was way more bubbly a minute ago. It looked like Alka-Seltzers a minute ago. And what did that take, 4 or 5 minutes? And then this is the part that we're going to be cleaning off next, all of this. I'm just trying to see if there's any questions. Okay, what exactly is the reverse check valve? It's hidden in here. I know there's some liquid in it. I really don't want to make a mess. Let me throw a towel under here just in case it gets crazy. And I'll switch the camera for you so you can see it. So I've put a couple zip ties around this piece of black foam. You guys know I love this black foam. You can buy it at Hobby Lobby or a place like that for a giant piece the size of a placemat for 99 cents. And this has kept algae from growing inside of it. And it looks pretty dry actually. And what happens is when the water is pushing into this pipe and then coming out, it's pushing into here and here and here at the same time. And water is pushing out against this flapper and closing it. It keeps it closed the entire time the return pump is on. Once the return pump turns off, it wants to reverse siphon water out of your tank. It wants to drain the tank. Well, this right here is above the water line, and it just sucks in air and breaks the siphon instantly. So as soon as my return pump stops, I hear, and it breaks the siphon and no water drains from the tank, which is awesome. And this is set up above the aquarium, above the water line. And I put this little elbow here in case when it first turns on and water was shooting in, that if it sputtered, it wouldn't sputter all over the place, so I just pointed it down. But nothing ever comes out of it. So it's just a simple elbow for safety reasons, but you may not need that. It comes down to how much space you have. And then this guy here, this is a very old check valve. And I keep meaning to buy a new one, and I just haven't done it. So there's your check valve. And actually on my homepage of my YouTube channel, you see this thing with a close-up. It's all nice and clean and pretty. I've tried cleaning it. It's very hard to clean. It's almost impossible to clean. It just needs to be replaced. And I think a new one is maybe $10. And then that's just a piece of half-inch pipe right there. Okay, so this is done. I want to go ahead and rinse this side, and I want to soak the next side. Maybe I can do all of that at the exact same time. Let me think. Kind of limited on space today. I didn't really plan this very well. All right, that's still not right, but it's close. So we're draining our acid out so I don't drip it everywhere. I see some water dripping out the other end, of course. Perfect. That'll work. Still seeing little bits of water hit my table here. Okay. So that is now soaking, and that side is rinsing. I can actually get in here now and I can scrub it. I just got to get my sweater off so I don't ruin it. And I kind of want to clean this. I really would like to, you know, I might just do it just to see what happens. Nope, I changed my mind. I don't want to do that because I got to reach into this acid to get this out, and I don't want to do that either. So I'm just going to put it in the rinse bucket. And we'll switch camera angles again. But let me go ahead and remove my sweater that is holding my microphone. Give me 1 second here. Don't want to wreck the brand new sweater. Alrighty, so that is ready. We've got a sponge here. I've got a little scrubby floating around over here as well. I got towels, so I can kind of just work on this and let that other side just soak. Let's see if I can bring you guys over here. Switch. So as you can see, the stuff just comes off really, really easily now in comparison to how it normally might be. I'm already down to the PVC pipe with no problem at all. And this assembly has been built for over 5 years, and it's been in the tank pretty much that entire time. I don't remember removing it previously. So this will be the first time I'm cleaning it in 5 years. And everything pretty much came off. I mean, there's one verminted snail right here, so I gotta chip him away with my little credit card. I got to keep track of my acid over here so I don't do anything stupid and spill it everywhere. Okay, that came right off. That one came right off. I've got what I think is calcium deposits up here. And if you were working with something that had a lot of calcium buildup on it and you soaked it in acid and it stopped bubbling, you can scrape off what you can, then do and put it back in the acid to get the next layer. So that's another nice feature of using acid. You can work your way through this process step by step. I'm going to need some tools here to remove that old knuckle for the old flow accelerator system so that I can screw in the brand new one that came with the one from VCA. I'm over here watching this other bucket really carefully. I don't know if you can see that. Back this up slightly. So I'm trying not to spill this guy. And you see, it's not really bubbling as much now as it was. It's just, it foamed up and it's got a little bit of bubbles, but not much. So it'd be nice to see this in my tank cleaner instead of all the crud on it. There were times in the past where I took some amazing pictures of some sponge growth on here. But then finally it just kind of got whatever crud gets on plumbing. And it became blending. It just blended in, or I tended to ignore it. It'll still, it won't be perfect going into the tank, but it'll be a lot cleaner than it was. And the process, as you can see, was not a big deal. This entire bucket of rinse water is warm rinse water. Nothing special in it. And whatever acid was on the plumbing when I moved it over was minimal and just dripped in and diluted instantly and is of no effect. You don't have to rinse this twice or anything. It can just go into the tank now once I'm done, once I'm happy. And I'm going to try not to nitpick this to death because I just want to get the project done. It's just like, oh, it's out of the tank. Now's the time to really give it a good cleaning. And as you can see, this is why I don't feel like I need eye protection, because I'm working over a bucket of rinse water. I'm not scrubbing or doing anything in the acid. The acid was a dip or a bath, and I'm very cautious around that. If I was outside working with this, I might handle it a little bit differently. I might feel the need for gloves and the whole process. But this is pretty much ready to go. So let me go get some pliers so I can remove that knuckle And hopefully these fit. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. And I don't remember, because I put these on so long ago, I don't remember if I put Teflon tape or not. Probably did not, because it's submerged in water and doesn't matter. Okay. The biggest trick is not spilling your bucket of acid next to you. Oh, I did put some Teflon tape. We didn't know. Didn't expect that. All right. So this is now clean and ready for the new fitting to go in. Cleaner. Not perfect. But still better than it was. This is a great time to clean off all the salt creep that is built up on the pipes above the water line too. So everything looks nice and pretty. All right, this part is done. So now I'm going to tilt to drip out the acid out of the other end that you can't see on camera. And I'm going to put this dirty part into the rinse water. And let that sit for a couple minutes. It's hard to control the mouse with my wet fingers. All right. There we go. All right. Did I miss any questions? Anything I should have answered? Andrea, give me updates if I missed something. I don't know. I'm going to let you know. Mike is asking, I wonder how these will hold up. Let's see. Someone's doing water changes. I wanted to mention that we are at the end of the year, and I still have not done a single water change this year. However, that big vessel behind my aquarium that holds 265 gallons of liquid, it's full of RODI water, and it's ready for me to add the salt and start mixing it up to make salt water. So I need some Teflon tape. Let me see if I have any handy. Of course not. All right, in the other room. Be right back. So how many water changes do you guys do on average? Do you do one a month, or do you do it more frequently than that? And I'm sure you're going to tell me you can totally tell your corals look so much better after you're done every single time. Okay, we're going to switch this camera again for you guys. See part B of the cleanup. I've also got some salt here I want to get rid of off of the check valve fitting. And this one here does need Teflon tape. I'll put a fresh coat on there because this one you do want to seal. You don't want any surprises. And since I'm done with the acid, I think the smart move is to move it away from where I am so there's no surprises. So like I said, you can pour that out outside somewhere safe, preferably not on your lawn, unless you don't like your lawn. For some reason in my tanks, my plumbing, even internally inside the pipes, does not get nearly as bad as other people's. And I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if we can attribute that I don't use caulk washer or something like that. I basically, I run a calcium reactor and I maintain alkaline calcium magnesium levels at my target numbers, and I don't have weird surprises later on when I take plumbing out of my system 6 years later. So this one here probably could have soaked a little bit longer, but we'll see if I can just get the calcified stuff off with a credit card like I did before. There we go. Yeah, maybe I'll soak that one a little bit more now that I've loosened up some of the stuff like I explained before. just so I don't have to work as hard at this. Because a lot of this is coming off with no problem, but some of the stubborn stuff is still there. And now that I've exposed it, I can put it in some acid and do a second treatment. And I can answer some of your questions. Okay. Guess I'll get my acid again. If you were to get some acid on your hands, just rinse it off. It's not going to like melt your skin off your face like in the movies. It's just going to burn a little bit. And now I see bubbling again, so it's working on the calcium. Can you see those bubbles rising? There you go. All right. You might be wondering where you can buy this acid while I'm looking at your questions. You can buy it at Home Depot or at Lowe's or at Walmart. It's typically sold for swimming pool people for, well, I'd say for cleaning purposes, but God knows, I've never had a pool, so I don't know if maybe there's some other benefit for that. Adam's asking what salt I use. Well, since I don't change water, my answer is kind of jaded. But basically, I'm using aqua vitro salinity. I have some new stuff here from Royal Nature that I'm going to mix up and try out because they asked me to kind of give them some feedback on it. So I got 2 buckets of that to mix up. This elbow right here is to keep the assembly straight on top of my tank. So when I set this on top, this little guy is my leg. And you can even see a little piece of acrylic right here. Move my hand out of the way. That is what sits on top of the Euro brace. And that's what keeps it from tilting forward, so it stays flat. pH buffering, see, I had a feeling it was going to be that. I just knew if I said it's for cleaning, someone would say, no, 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 it's for such and such. Of course you would say that. I thought I brought a toothbrush over here. I did not. This will probably be the last time I clean this check valve. I'm going to go to Marine Depot and place an order. I'm going to do it today instead of blowing it off. I keep getting on the website and I start thinking, well, what else do I need? And then I never complete my order. It's my own fault. And a brand new check valve, the reason for that is not that this one has failed. It's kind of stuck closed a few times, which wasn't a big surprise because I was traveling for multiple days, and so it stayed shut for days on end. A brand new one will just open and close properly because everything's brand new. All the new rubber, new gaskets, new O-ring, new flapper. And this one, you know, I've had it. I've had it since 2011. I mean, it's old. So it's past its prime. And I just want to get a fresh one in here that works flawlessly every time. And if you have to buy a new check valve every 2 or 3 years for what I'm doing, who cares? This is definitely not a major expense. This is a minor thing. It's more a hassle because I keep forgetting to order it. And you can't really clean everything in there. There's some little bits of crud that I can't reach. And my other brush is not here, of course. So that's that. Well, it's better than it was. And I'm going to go ahead and put some new Teflon tape on this while I'm waiting for that acid to work on the last piece. And then we'll install both those new fittings. We'll put on the tank and we'll see what happens. You're going to actually watch live the results. And we'll see if those things blow off, if they work great, if anything weird happens, if the corals fall over. What are the best topics to start YouTube videos about your reef? Well, a lot of people like to see results. They want to see that what you're talking about works. So if you are saying this is what I believe in and your reef doesn't look good, your message is going to be kind of watered down. And, you know, there's going to be the basics, which is going to be flow and lighting and water testing. I mean, these are things we talk about frequently on this channel. It's really hard to put on Teflon tape in this orientation. I never do. I feel like I'm doing it upside down and backwards. This is not how I normally hold my fittings in my hand. All right, that should do fine. The one time it's okay to say fine. Now, I explained before, my check valve has to be installed so that when the water comes through the check valve, it closes the valve when water's running and then pulls air through. So I'm putting it with a flapper on this end. And I like the flapper to be pointing straight up and down, with a hinge at the top, so basically gravity is in my favor. But I guess it really doesn't matter. It could be gravity up because we want it to flop open. I don't know if it matters. Maybe we'll do flop open this time and see if it makes a difference. Okay? So this has stopped fizzing. The the acid looks clear. It's not all white and foamy like before. So we'll drain out a little bit of liquid here. Move it into my rinse bucket and rinse it once really quick before I actually start handling it. That way I don't get any ugly surprises in the initial contact with the plastic. And now that stuff that wasn't coming off before, there's a lot of crud floating in this water, came off. It's all of that white stuff that was bothering me a few minutes ago, no longer here. And then I'll chisel off a little bits here and there that didn't quite want to come off the easy way. But for the most part, it looks cleaned up. This is all black PVC. I bought it years ago. This only fitting I had to buy was white, and I painted it with Krylon Fusion spray paint. I let it dry for 24 hours before I installed it. And after all these years, you can see right here is a little bit of white showing where the paint is flaked off. Out of all those years, out of 8 years, or 7, 8 years, or I'm sorry, I said Disassembly is 5 years old. So in 5 years, that's how a little bit came off. And this is above the water. It's where the salt sits. So that is ready. Let me loosen this nut off of here. And then we'll clean the edge a little bit. And we'll put the new fittings in, and we'll reinstall it. I think I have to go one more twist. According to Anthony over at VCA, with his flow accelerators, you don't have to put them into the water as deeply as I have mine. So technically, he's saying I could adjust my plumbing to where these pipes are more closer to the surface and not sticking down so deep. But I am not in the mood to change my plumbing. So I'm just going to install on what I own. Okay, that's that. Still seeing the occasional drips over here. My poor carpet. I should be doing this in the kitchen, but I'm doing a live stream for y'all. Okay. Move the acid, move the water. Alrighty. Switch back to this camera. And we'll go ahead and put this guy where he was. So we've got an assembly that's cleaned up, clean check valve. All the part that's going to be in the water will look a lot better than it did 20 minutes ago. I'm going to go ahead and apply Teflon tape to this fitting right here. And I've got a second one here. This is the nozzle, the product. VCA is the brand. They call them RFG, which stands for Random Flow Generator. These are 3D printed. This is not. This is a physical fitting, like a real plumbing part. This one was printed. And inside it's designed to fit this knuckle perfectly. And it's got little fins inside of it that you can probably see. That's supposed to make the water change. The water's supposed to come out and go this way and then go that way, and it just constantly is changing to water pressure. So we'll press this together, and then we'll put our Teflon tape on. Whenever I put Teflon tape on a fitting, I always hold the part in my right hand, and I put the tape onto the threads with my left hand, and I am turning my fitting clockwise. And the reason it matters which way you put Teflon tape on threads is if you put it on backwards, as you screw it in, you're actually peeling it off the pipe. So we want to make sure that we get this on correctly. And that's plenty. It's, again, this doesn't have to be, it's going to be completely submerged. I'm just trying to make sure the water comes out the outlets and not out around the threads. And as you can see, you don't even need a tool for this. All right. So that is much smaller than what I had before. That's awesome. I guess I should have shown you guys that as well before I took it and soaked it, but I was busy dealing with stuff dripping, and I apologize for that. But this has probably reduced the length of the flow accelerator section, I'd say by about 4 inches. I did about 4 or 5 twists around here, if you were counting. While we're looking at stuff, here is the inlet of my pipe, and after 5 years, you can see it's not really disgusting inside. I'm trying to tilt it so you can get some light into it. Let's see if I can do it maybe this way. I don't know. Anyway, it's not gross in there. It has a little bit of that brown slime you see inside plumbing. And this right here is an O-ring. It's always good to put silicone grease on O-rings whenever you take a union apart. So I'm going to go get some. I'll be right back. This is the silicone grease I get at Home Depot. And it's clear. It looks like silicone. And you just apply it to your finger and then rub it right onto the O-ring itself. I'm going to clean off this edge first with whatever crud is on here. Okay. We'll apply some silicone grease there. And you know, you could actually remove the O-ring and actually grease both sides of it. Okay, that's done. This needs its little elbow put back on. This does not need any kind of Teflon tape because it's on the outbound side. Point it down. And for right now, I think I will not put the cover on this. So there's my assembly. Here are my returns where the water's going to flow out. And as you can see, there's 2 of them. And I'm going to make sure that the plumbing where it butts up against the old union is nice and clean, so I don't have any weird drips over here or salt creep. You can also put silicone grease on the threads themselves, but this one still has plenty from last time. And I'm talking about the threads of the union, so you can actually loosen the union later. Okay, nice and tight, no surprises. Point this so it's straight. That looks ready to turn on. Do you guys want me to move you a little closer so you can see the real effect? We'll do this. And we'll switch cameras. What is this doing? Okay. I think that'll work. Maybe a little bit higher up. All right, that looks good. I'll go ahead and turn on the pump. Let's see what happens. Oh, gotta push it 2 times. Here we go. So now really the only way to demonstrate the flow patterns would be to put something in the tank solid, you know, something kind of a liquid, or like putting in some, reef booster, some, oh wow. I'm just watching the surface like jumping here. It's almost jumping in a pulse. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to move you a little bit closer. you see that pulse that's happening? And what I had before stuck out to about here. So it's much smaller in comparison. It's pretty great. I'm going to point it down slightly because I don't need my surface jumping. That is so weird. I can actually feel it moving around my palm instead of just going straight out. It is literally changing constantly. That is insane. I did not expect that. That should be very interesting to see how the anemone likes it and how the corals over there like it. Wow. That's neato. No wonder he kept asking me if I tried it yet. All right. I'm going to put the cover back on. So how do you like them apples? It's funny, my tank sounds louder right now the way it's draining, and I'm sure it's because I used acid on the plumbing and cleaned the pipes, and it's kind of changed the way things were. But other than that, all I did was change out 2 fittings. Alrighty. So you have seen all that. We'll switch back to me. Get this out of the way. I'll pull this out. I'm looking at my table where I dripped some acid on my nice little carpet tabletop, and it made the carpet turn blue. So don't drip acid on your carpet, people. Fortunately, this is my work table. And eventually, you just have to get new carpet anyway, so it's no big deal. But you know me, I like things to last forever. Okay, so I will put this on later. That was my black foam. That's my reminder. That was kind of a fun project. Maybe I can answer some questions for you guys before we wrap this up. We got about 15 minutes left. All right. I am sure Antonio is going to watch this video later very closely. Hey, how did the sound work this time, guys? Is it fading in and out, or is it staying? Kicker asked me what salt I'm using. I have Aquavitro in stock, and I have something new I'm going to try out that's been in my possession for about a month. Adrian asked if this would be too strong for a 50-gallon cube. Well, that's a 400-gallon. Sorry about that. We got dropped for a heartbeat. I don't know why. So this is the brand, VCA. And on the back, the 1-inch, it says that its minimum gallons per hour recommendation is 320. I don't know. I'm watching this thing. It keeps saying stream in, stream out. I don't know what's happening. We might be wrapping up on this live stream, people. Richie asked me, what are you doing so you don't have to do water changes? Well, something evil is happening with our stream. It keeps trying to stop. I know, it's weird. I think I'm just going to wrap this up, guys. Or maybe I should end it and start a fresh one, because this one just keeps choking on us, and I don't know why. I did nothing but sit down near the computer. Let me wrap this one up, and we'll do a part B, and then we'll call it the end of the year.